Good day, lovely viewers. Welcome to DxD Tales. We have an exciting story lined up for you today. What if Issei was betrayed and became the supreme overlord of all realms? Your engagement means the world to us. Like, comment, and subscribe to help us grow and bring you more amazing content. Without wasting any time, let's start. Chapter 1, Betrayals. Awakening. The crimson flash of power erupted from Issei's gauntlet as he slammed his fist into the stray devil's chest. The creature's eyes widened in shock before its body disintegrated into particles of light that scattered across the abandoned warehouse. Holy crap, that was awesome. Issei grinned, the red dragon-scaled gauntlet on his arm pulsing with energy. Did you guys see that? One punch. Ria's Gremory stood several feet away, her crimson hair cascading down her back as she observed Issei with an unreadable expression. Yes, very impressive, Issei. That's the third stray devil you've defeated tonight without assistance. Kiba sheathed his sword, offering Issei a tight smile. You're getting stronger every day. Stronger than expected, Akino murmured, exchanging a quick glance with Rias. Issei missed the look, too busy celebrating. The rush of power flowing through him felt incredible, different somehow, like he'd unlocked something new. For months, he'd been struggling to increase his sacred gear's output, but tonight, everything clicked. The power responded to his will instantly, each boost doubling his strength without the usual strain. Boosted gear, he called out again, feeling the familiar weight materialize on his arm. Draig, we're totally in sync tonight. Indeed, partner, the dragon's voice rumbled within his consciousness. Something has changed. Kaneko brushed dust off her school uniform, her normally expressionless face showing a flicker of concern. You're using more dragon energy than usual, senpai. Really? I don't feel drained at all. Issei laughed, flexing his arm as the sacred gear disappeared. I feel like I could fight 10 more of these freaks. Rias checked her phone, her brow furrowing. That won't be necessary. Bucho has called us back to headquarters. The mission is complete. Already? But I'm just getting warmed up. Issei complained, still riding the adrenaline high. Asia stepped forward, her gentle hands hovering near Issei's arm. Are you sure you don't need healing, Issei-san? He shook his head, noticing her concern. I'm perfectly fine, Asia. Didn't even get scratched tonight. That's what worries me, she whispered, so softly he barely caught it. As they gathered to teleport back to the occult research club room, Issei couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The others kept their distance, exchanging those weird looks. Even Kiba, usually friendly despite his pretty boy irritating perfection, seemed tense around him. They fear what they cannot control, partner, Draig's voice echoed in his mind. What do you mean? Issei muttered under his breath. Watch and learn. Not everything is as it seems. The magic circle appeared beneath their feet, transporting them back to the old school building that housed their club. As they materialized, Issei immediately sensed another presence in the room, powerful, ancient, and vaguely familiar. Surzek-sama. Rias exclaimed, her tone shifting to one of formality and respect as she addressed her brother, one of the 4 great Satans who ruled the underworld. The crimson-haired man sat casually on the antique sofa, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit that somehow enhanced his aura of absolute power. Rias, everyone, welcome back. I trust the mission was successful. Yes, brother. 3 stray devils eliminated, no casualties or property damage. Ria's voice carried a strange undertone Issei couldn't quite place. Surzek's eyes landed on Issei, studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. And how did our Red Dragon Emperor perform? Issei handled all 3 strays himself, Rias replied. His power output exceeded expected parameters. Expected parameters? Since when did they measure his powers like some lab experiment? I see, Surzek nodded slowly. Interesting timing. Issei stepped forward, confusion written across his face. Not to be rude, Surzek-sama, but what brings you here? Is something wrong? Nothing's wrong, Issei-kun, Surzek smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I just wanted to personally check on my sister's peerage. The Red Dragon Emperor is a valuable piece, after all. Piece. The word struck Issei oddly. Not person, not ally, piece. Like a chess piece on a board. Everyone performed admirably, Rias interjected quickly. But we should debrief properly. Perhaps Issei and the others could use some rest while we discuss the administrative details. Surzek waved his hand dismissively. Of course. Issei-kun, you must be tired after such exertion. Why don't you head home? We can celebrate your victory another time. Something in Issei rebelled against the dismissal. Since when did defeating stray devils warrant a visit from a Satan? And why the weird formality? Actually, I feel great, Issei insisted. Better than ever. I think I finally figured out how to properly channel boosted gear's power. Drake and I, that's wonderful, Rias cut him off with a smile that seemed forced. But it's late, and we have school tomorrow. You should rest while your body adjusts to the new power output. Asia clutched her hands together nervously. I'll walk with you, Issei-san. No need, Rias said quickly. Asia, I'd like you to stay for the debriefing. Your healing abilities are developing, and we should discuss proper application during combat. Asia's face fell, but she nodded obediently. Yes, Bucho. Issei looked around at his friends, suddenly feeling like an outsider. All right then. I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow. No one walked him to the door. No one offered the usual casual conversation or made plans for the next day. Just awkward silence and averted gazes. As he closed the club room door behind him, Issei paused in the darkened hallway. A strange impulse told him not to leave, not yet. Trust your instincts, partner, Drake urged. Something is happening. Issei hesitated only a moment before making his decision. He crept silently back toward the door, pressing his ear against the old wood. His devil-enhanced hearing picked up the conversation inside perfectly. Developing far too quickly, Rias was saying, her voice tense. The limiter should have held for at least another year. Limiter? What limiter? The seal was designed based on standard sacred gear progression, Surzek replied. But we underestimated the boy's potential and his bond with the Welsh dragon. Could it be because of Asia's healing? Or perhaps my energy transfers? Aquino asked, her usual playful tone absent. Unlikely. The seal is breaking down from within, Surzek said. Ajuka theorized this might happen if certain conditions were met, but not this soon. Issei's heart pounded in his chest as he struggled to process what he was hearing. They had sealed his power. Deliberately limited him. What happens if the seal breaks completely? Kiba asked. Best case scenario. His body can't handle the full power of the boosted gear and burns itself out, Surzek answered clinically. Worst case. He awakens his full potential and realizes what we've done. Rias sighed heavily. I've grown fond of him. Is there really no other way? You knew what he was when you reincarnated him, Rias, her brother said firmly. A potential threat that needed to be controlled. The boosted gear alone would make him dangerous enough, but combined with his hidden heritage. So what do we do now? Kaniko's quiet voice asked. We have two options, Surzek stated. Reinforce the seal immediately, which carries significant risks of detection now that he's more attuned to his power, or. Rias prompted. Or we eliminate the threat before it fully manifests. The silence that followed felt like a physical weight crushing Issei's chest. They were talking about killing him, his friends, his peerage, the people he'd fought beside and nearly died for. The girl he loved. There must be another way, Asia finally whispered, her voice breaking. There isn't, Rias said firmly. Brother is right. We've always known this day might come. I had hoped we'd have more time to prepare, that's all. So which option? Aquino asked. Issei couldn't bear to hear the answer. He backed away from the door, his mind reeling. Betrayal burned through him hotter than any dragon fire, searing away the naive trust he'd placed in the Gremory household. Every smile, every promise, every tender moment with Rias, all lies designed to keep him docile while they suppressed his true power. I tried to warn you in subtle ways, partner, Drake's voice echoed in his mind. Devils are manipulators by nature. They feared your potential from the beginning. Issei moved silently through the hallways, slipping out of the old school building into the cool night air. His body moved on autopilot while his mind struggled to process the truth. Why, he whispered to Drake. Why would they do this? I've fought for them, bled for them. Because true power frightens those who rule through systems of control, the dragon answered. The Red Dragon Emperor's potential has always threatened the established order. Add to that whatever hidden heritage they mentioned, hidden heritage. I'm just a normal guy. Or I was before becoming a devil. Are you certain of that, partner? Have you never questioned why the boosted gear chose you specifically? Before Issei could respond, a familiar magic circle appeared on the ground before him. His body tensed, ready for battle. Were they coming for him already? Instead of the Gremory crest, however, a different symbol glowed in the darkness, one he recognized from previous encounters. Valley? Issei growled as the white-haired host of the Divine Dividing, Albion, materialized before him. His eternal rival, the White Dragon Emperor. I'm really not in the mood for our rivalry right now. Vala's expression was uncharacteristically serious. They've made their move sooner than expected. We need to go, Hayadu. Issei blinked in confusion. What are you talking about? How do you know? I've been monitoring the situation. There's no time to explain here, Vala cut him off. They'll sense that I've arrived any second. Make your choice now, come with me and learn the truth about your power, or stay and let them reset the seal, or worse. Why would you help me? We're supposed to be enemies. Vala's lips curved into a slight smile. I prefer to defeat you at your full strength, not the watered-down version they created. Besides, what they've done violates the natural order of the sacred gears. Even Albion finds it distasteful. Behind them, a burst of demonic power erupted from the old school building. They detected Vala's presence. Issei. Rias's voice called out, power gathering around her as she flew toward them, the rest of the orc close behind. Issei looked between Vala and the approaching figures of those he'd considered family. The decision crystallized in his mind with startling clarity. Let's go, he told Vala. The teleportation circle expanded beneath their feet. The last thing Issei saw was Rias's face twisted in fury and something else, fear. Real fear. Traitor, she screamed as the magic engulfed them. That's my line, Issei muttered as they vanished from Kuo Academy. Issei stumbled as they materialized in an unfamiliar location, some kind of underground bunker with reinforced walls covered in magical inscriptions. The air hummed with protective enchantments and power limiters. Where are we? He asked, still disoriented from the teleportation and the emotional whiplash of the past hour. A safe house between dimensions, Vala replied, casually removing his jacket. One of several I maintain outside the influence of any faction. Between dimensions? Is that even possible? For someone of my capabilities, yes. Vala gestured to a chair. Sit. You look like you're about to collapse. Issei sank into the offered seat, his mind still reeling. Why did you bring me here? What do you know about all this? I know that the Gremory household, with authorization from the current Satans, placed a powerful limiter on your sacred gear the moment Rias reincarnated you, Vala stated bluntly. I know they've been monitoring your power levels and actively suppressing your growth while feeding you just enough praise to keep you loyal. Each word felt like a physical blow. But why? What makes me so dangerous that they'd go to these lengths? Two things. First, the obvious, you possess one of the 13 Longinus, sacred gears capable of killing gods. That alone makes you a threat to the status quo. Valley paced slowly around the room. But more importantly, they discovered something in your bloodline that terrified them. Issei leaned forward. My bloodline? I'm just a normal human, or was. Valley actually laughed, the sound echoing oddly in the reinforced chamber. Normal? Hayadu Issei, did you never wonder why of all people, the boosted gear chose you? Sacred gears aren't entirely random in their selection of hosts. What are you saying? I'm saying that somewhere in your ancestry lies something extraordinary. Something the devil hierarchy feared enough to take drastic measures the moment they discovered it. Valley stopped pacing and fixed Issei with an intense stare. Why do you think a high-class devil like Rias Gremory would use all 8 pawn pieces to reincarnate an apparently ordinary human? The question hit Issei like a freight train. He'd never questioned it before, assuming it was just how the system worked, or that the boosted gear required that much demonic power to convert. 8 pawn pieces isn't just overkill for a normal human with a sacred gear, Valley continued. It's practically impossible. The pieces adapt to the person's inherent nature and potential. You required all 8 because whatever sleeps in your blood is far beyond ordinary. Issei's head spun with questions. How do you know all this? Because I've been investigating the artificial power limiters placed on sacred gear users for years, Valley explained. The current supernatural power structure, heaven, the underworld, and the various mythological factions, all fear individuals with unfettered access to Longinus-class sacred gears. When I discovered they'd placed such restrictions on my destined rival. His eyes narrowed. Let's just say it offended my sense of proper competition. So what happens now? They'll be hunting me. Now. Valley smiled coldly. Now we break their seal and unleash your true potential. Issei's fist clenched reflexively. Can you do that? Not alone. But I know someone who can. Valley opened a small dimensional pocket and removed a glowing crystal. This will temporarily mask your presence from tracking spells. It won't last long, but it should buy us enough time. Time for what? To find Tiamat. Issei's eyes widened. The Chaos Karma Dragon. One of the 5 Dragon Kings. Why would she help me? Because she despises how devils have manipulated dragon power for centuries, Valley explained. And because she has a particular interest in the Red Dragon Emperor's lineage. A sudden wave of exhaustion hit Issei, the adrenaline finally wearing off as the emotional and physical toll of the night caught up with him. He slumped in the chair. Rest for now, Valley advised. We move at dawn. The Gremory household will have already contacted the other devil families. By morning, you'll be labeled a stray, and the hunt will begin in earnest. They betrayed me, Issei whispered, the reality still sinking in. All of them. Even Asia. The healer girl seemed reluctant, Valley offered, showing an unusual hint of compassion. But in the end, her loyalty to Rias outweighed her friendship with you. That's how it often works with reincarnated devils, the magical bond to their king overwhelms their other attachments. Issei closed his eyes, feeling something fundamental shift within him. The hurt was transforming, crystallizing into something harder and more dangerous. When we remove this seal, he asked quietly, what happens to me? Valley's expression turned serious. Your true power will begin to emerge. It will be painful, disorienting, and potentially deadly if not properly channeled. But if you survive. He paused. If you survive, you'll become something this world hasn't seen in millennia. And if the Devil Society has gone to such lengths to prevent that, won't unleashing my power put a target on my back for the rest of my life? Valley laughed, a genuine sound of amusement. Now you're thinking like someone who wants to survive. Yes, you'll be hunted, at first. But power changes everything in the supernatural world. Gain enough of it, and those who hunted you will beg to become your allies. Issei nodded slowly, a new resolve hardening within him. Then let's find Tiamat. I want to know exactly what they've been hiding from me. That's the spirit, partner, Drake's voice rumbled approvingly in his mind. It's time you learned what it truly means to be the Red Dragon Emperor. Dawn arrived too quickly. Issei had managed only a few hours of fitful sleep, his dreams haunted by Ryasa's face contorted with that strange mixture of fury and fear. Each time he closed his eyes, he heard her voice, "Traitor. You look terrible," Valley observed as Issei emerged from the small room where he'd rested. "Thanks. You're a real supportive rival." Issei rubbed his face, trying to shake off the fatigue. "I brought supplies." Valley tossed him a small bag containing clothes, energy bars, and a water bottle. "The clothes have minor enchantments to further mask your presence. Not enough to hide from serious tracking magic, but every little bit helps." Issei changed quickly, noting that the dark combat pants and jacket fit perfectly. "How did you know my size?" "I've studied you extensively," Valis said without a hint of embarrassment. "Know your enemy and all that. That's not creepy at all." Despite everything, Issei found himself appreciating Valis' straightforward nature. No pretense, no hidden agenda, just brutal honesty. "We need to move. I can only maintain this dimensional pocket for another hour before it becomes detectable." Valley activated a complex magic circle. "This will take us to the outer boundary of Tiamat's territory. And she won't immediately kill us for trespassing?" "Oh, she might try," Valley shrugged. "But she'll be more interested in you than angry at me, I suspect." The teleportation circle enveloped them, and the world dissolved into streaks of light. When reality solidified again, Issei found himself standing on a rocky outcropping overlooking a vast, mist-shrouded valley. Ancient trees towered hundreds of feet into the air, their canopies lost in the swirling fog. The air felt heavy with primordial energy. "Where are we?" Issei whispered, instinctively keeping his voice low. "A hidden pocket dimension connected to multiple realms," Valley explained. "Tiamat created it millennia ago as a sanctuary from the god of the Bible and other powerful entities who hunted dragons during the Great War. How do we find her in all this?" Issei gestured to the seemingly endless forest below. Valley turned to him with a grim smile. "We don't find her. She finds us." "He's right, partner," Drake's voice echoed in Issei's mind. "Tiamat will sense my presence the moment you activate the boosted gear. But be warned, she and I have history." "History?" Issei raised an eyebrow. "What kind of history?" "The complicated kind. Just be prepared for some hostility." "Great," Issei muttered. "So I'm supposed to ask for help from a dragon king who already hates my sacred gear. This plan keeps getting better." "Your alternative is returning to the devils who plan to either kill you or permanently cripple your power," Valley reminded him. "Besides, Tiamat's grudge against Drake doesn't necessarily extend to you. Dragon kings respect strength above all else." "Then let's show her strength," Issei decided, stepping forward to the edge of the cliff. Boosted gear. The crimson gauntlet materialized on his arm, its jewel glowing with emerald light. Issei felt the familiar surge of power, but now that he knew about the seal, he could sense something else, a resistance, like trying to breathe through a cloth pressed against his face. "Boost," he called out, feeling the energy double within him. "Boost! Boost! Boost!" With each command, power surged through his body, pushing against invisible constraints. The fourth boost brought a sharp pain behind his eyes, a warning that he was approaching the limits of what the seal would allow. "Is that enough to get her attention?" Issei asked through gritted teeth. His answer came in the form of a deafening roar that shook the very air around them. The mist below suddenly swirled violently, pushed aside by massive wings as a colossal draconic form rose from the valley. Tiamat, the Chaos Karma Dragon, was easily the size of a commercial airliner, her blue scales shimmering like sapphires in the morning light. Her eyes, ancient and piercing, fixed immediately on Issei's gauntlet. Red Dragon Emperor, her voice boomed across the valley, each word resonating with primordial power. You dare enter my domain? Technically, your grudge is with Drake, not me, Issei called back, trying to project confidence despite the terror gripping his chest. The sheer pressure of her aura made breathing difficult. The massive dragon narrowed her eyes, then suddenly shrank in size, her form condensing and reshaping until a woman stood before them, tall and regal with blue hair cascading to her waist, wearing armor that resembled scales. Only her eyes remained unchanged, ancient and inhuman. Interesting, she said, her voice now melodic yet still carrying undertones of her true nature. You distinguish yourself from the dragon within you. Most hosts eventually blur the line. She turned her gaze to Valley. White Dragon Emperor. You bring your rival to my sanctuary. Why? The devils have interfered with the natural order, Valis stated plainly. They placed a seal on Hayatu's power the moment he was reincarnated. Tiamat's expression darkened, the air around her crackling with suppressed rage. Show me. She approached Issei, who fought the instinct to back away. Her hand reached out, touching the boosted gear. The contact sent a jolt through Issei's entire body. Disgusting, she hissed, her eyes flashing. I can feel their magic corrupting the natural flow of draconic energy. This is no simple limiter, it's designed to permanently alter your development, redirecting power back upon itself until it burns out your soul. Can you remove it? Issei asked. Tiamat studied him carefully. I could. But why should I? Drake caused me considerable grief in ages past. Tiamat, Drake's voice emerged from the gauntlet, audible to all present. Whatever quarrel lies between us should not condemn my partner. He has been used as a pawn by devils who feared his potential. Since when do you care about your hosts, Drake? Tiamat asked with a cold smile. You've burned through hundreds of them across the millennia. This one is different, Drake insisted. And you know it. You can sense what I sense. Tiamat's eyes narrowed as she leaned closer to Issei, inhaling deeply as if catching his scent. Her eyes suddenly widened. Impossible, she whispered. After all this time. What? Issei demanded. What do you sense? Instead of answering, she pressed her palm against his chest, directly over his heart. Magic flowed from her touch, seeping into him like ice water flowing through his veins. Issei gasped as foreign energy coursed through him, illuminating something hidden deep within. Now I understand why they feared you enough to take such measures, Tiamat said softly. Boy, do you know what flows in your veins? Issei shook his head, struggling to speak through the discomfort of her magical probing. I was, just a normal human before Rias reincarnated me. Tiamat laughed, the sound like crystal bells with an undercurrent of thunder. Normal. You carry the dormant blood of the Dragon Emperor lineage, not just any dragons, but the royal line that existed before the Great War, before God fractured our kind and scattered our power across sacred gears and dimensional prisons. She released him, stepping back with a contemplative expression. It's faint, diluted through countless generations of human breeding, but unmistakably there. Combined with hosting the boosted gear, no wonder the current powers sought to contain you. Issei struggled to process this revelation. You're saying I have dragon blood? But I'm human. My parents are human. The blood can lie dormant for hundreds of generations before manifesting, Tiamat explained. Usually, it requires a catalyst to awaken, like bonding with a powerful draconic entity such as Drake. The seal, Valley interjected. It wasn't just limiting the boosted gear, was it? It was specifically designed to suppress his draconic heritage. Tiamat nodded. Precisely. A dual-purpose seal, elegantly constructed. It's a Juka Beelzebub's work, I recognize his magical signature. Only a Satan could design something this complex. Issei's head spun with implications. So if you remove the seal, both aspects of your power will begin to emerge, the unrestricted boosted gear and your dormant dragon nature. Tiamat's eyes gleamed with something like anticipation. The combination could destroy you from within, or elevate you beyond anything this world has seen since the primordial era. And if it destroys me? Then you were not worthy of the heritage, she said simply. Dragons do not coddle their young. Power must be earned through survival. Issei took a deep breath, decision crystallizing in his mind. Remove it. You understand there's no going back. The process itself might kill you. Better to die free than live as someone's controlled pawn, Issei said firmly. Tiamat's lips curved into a smile of approval. Perhaps there is something of the old blood in you after all. She turned to Valley. You should step back. This will release a surge of energy that might trigger your own draconic nature. Valley nodded, moving several dozen yards away, though his eyes remained fixed on Issei with intense interest. Kneel, Tiamat commanded. Issei dropped to one knee before her. Tiamat placed one hand on his head and the other on the boosted gear. This will hurt, she warned, then began chanting in a language Issei didn't recognize, harsh consonants and flowing vowels that seemed to resonate with something primal within him. The pain started slowly, a warmth that quickly became a burning sensation, then escalated into pure agony. Issei gritted his teeth, determined not to scream, but as Tiamat's chanting intensified, the pain became overwhelming. It felt like his blood was boiling, his bones melting, his very soul being torn apart and reconstructed. He screamed then, a sound that started human but transformed into something else, a roar that carried draconic undertones. The boosted gear began to glow, not with its usual red light but with a blinding crimson radiance that spread across his entire arm, then his chest, eventually enveloping his entire body. Tiamat's chanting reached a crescendo, her final words cutting through Issei's consciousness like a knife, Dracontos anima liberato. Something shattered within him, not a physical breaking, but the destruction of magical constraints that had been wrapped around his very essence since his reincarnation. Power flooded through the breach, raw and untamed, threatening to tear him apart from within. Partner. Drake's voice thundered in his mind. You must control the flow. Direct it, shape it, or it will consume you. Issei couldn't speak, couldn't think coherently through the pain, but some instinct deeper than thought responded to Drake's warning. He visualized the power not as an enemy to be fought but as a river to be channeled. Instead of resisting the flood, he created pathways within himself, directing the energy through his body in controlled streams rather than allowing it to rampage unchecked. The pain gradually subsided, replaced by a sensation of incredible fullness, as though his body could barely contain what now dwelled within him. Issei opened eyes he hadn't realized he'd closed and found himself still kneeling, surrounded by scorched earth where the unleashed power had burned away all vegetation in a perfect circle. Tiamat stood before him, watching with an expression of genuine surprise. You survived. Impressive. Issei slowly rose to his feet, marveling at how different his body felt, lighter yet stronger, each movement flowing with newfound grace. What happened to me? The seal is broken, Tiamat replied. Both your sacred gear and your draconic heritage are now free to develop naturally. She circled him, studying the changes with obvious interest. Already your body is adapting, becoming something neither fully human nor devil nor dragon, but a unique synthesis. Issei looked down at his hands and gasped. Faint red scales had appeared on his forearms, glimmering like rubies in the sunlight. He touched them cautiously, finding them hard as steel yet flexible with his movements. Is this permanent? He asked. This is just the beginning, Tiamat explained. Your transformation will continue as your power grows and you learn to control it. Eventually, you'll be able to shift between forms at will, like all higher dragons. Valley approached, his expression a mixture of fascination and competitive fire. How do you feel? Issei took a deep breath, cataloging the changes within himself. Strong. Clear. Like I've been seeing the world through dirty glass until now. He summoned the boosted gear, gasping as it materialized instantly, its form slightly altered, more organic, as though it were truly part of him rather than an external manifestation. The connection between us has deepened, partner, Drake observed. I can sense your thoughts more clearly, and you can now access more of my knowledge and experience. The devils will sense this change, Tiamat warned. The release of energy when the seal broke would have registered on their monitoring systems. They'll be coming for you with everything they have. Let them come, Issei said, surprised by the conviction in his voice. I'm done running. I'm done being manipulated. Tiamat's lips curved into a predatory smile. Now you speak like a true dragon. But courage alone won't save you. You need knowledge, training, and allies. I can help with training, Valley offered. My team has resources and safe houses throughout the world, beyond the reach of devil influence. And I, Tiamat said, can provide knowledge of your heritage that has been lost for millennia. But first, you must prove yourself worthy. Issei met her gaze steadily. How? By surviving what comes next. Tiamat gestured, and a dimensional portal opened beside them. Devils approach my domain, high-class fighters led by Surzek's Lucifer himself. Even I would hesitate to challenge a Satan directly in my sanctuary. So we run? Issei asked, disappointment evident in his tone. Strategic retreat is not cowardice, Tiamat corrected him. It's the first lesson of warfare. Choose your battlegrounds carefully. She handed him a small blue scale. When you're ready to learn more about your lineage, crush this scale and speak my name. I'll find you. Valis stepped toward the portal. We should go. Even with your new power, you're not ready to face Surzek's. Issei nodded reluctantly, but as he moved toward the portal, a familiar magic circle appeared on the ground nearby. Too late, Tiamat hissed, stepping back as crimson light flooded the clearing. Surzek's Lucifer materialized before them, his casual appearance belied by the overwhelming aura of destruction magic that surrounded him. Behind him appeared Graphia, his wife and the strongest queen in the underworld, along with several members of his personal guard. Most painful for Issei, Rias and the entire occult research club stood among them, Asia looking tearful, Kiba grimly determined, Akino's expression unreadable, and Kaneko watching him with sad eyes. Only Rias seemed truly angry, her power of destruction crackling around her hands. Issei Hayadu, Surzek said calmly, as though they were meeting for tea rather than a confrontation. You've made some poor choices today. Funny, I was thinking the same about you, Issei replied, feeling Drake's power surging through him, ready to respond to his will. Sealing my power? Planning to kill me if the seal broke? Those seem like pretty poor choices to me. Surzek sighed, looking genuinely regretful. You don't understand the complexities involved. The seal was for your protection as much as ours. Uncontrolled power of your magnitude would have torn you apart. Save the lies, Valley interrupted. We know about his draconic heritage and your fear of what he might become. Rias stepped forward, her eyes locked on Issei. You betrayed us, ran off with our enemy at the first opportunity. How could you? The accusation ignited something fierce within Issei. I betrayed you. I overheard your entire conversation. You were planning to either reinforce the seal or eliminate the threat, meaning kill me. After everything I did for you, everything I sacrificed. It wasn't like that, Rias insisted, though uncertainty flickered across her face. We were discussing worst-case scenarios, not making plans. Stop lying to him, Rias, Surzek said gently. He deserves the truth now that things have progressed this far. He turned back to Issei. Yes, we placed limitations on your power. Yes, we monitored your development carefully. And yes, if necessary, we would have taken action to prevent the emergence of an uncontrollable force that could destabilize the fragile peace between factions. By murdering me. By doing whatever was necessary to protect the many over the one, Surzex corrected. But it's not too late, Issei. The seal is broken, but we can help you control what's been unleashed. Come back with us willingly, and I give you my word as Satan that no harm will come to you. He lies, Drake growled in Issei's mind. They fear you more now, not less. They will study you, learn your weaknesses, then destroy you when they've determined you cannot be controlled. Issei looked at each face in turn, the people he'd trusted, fought alongside, even loved. His gaze lingered on Asia, whose tears flowed freely now. Please come home, Issei-san, she pleaded. For a moment, his resolve wavered. Then he remembered the clinical way they'd discussed his potential death, the years of suppressed power and manipulated emotions. I trusted you, he said quietly. I would have died for any of you. And all along, I was just a dangerous pet to be put down if I grew too strong. That's not, Rias began, but Issei cut her off. Save it. He turned to Surzex. I'm not going anywhere with you. Not now, not ever. Surzex's expression hardened. I'm afraid I can't accept that answer. The unleashed power within you is too dangerous to leave unchecked. He raised his hand, destruction magic gathering at his fingertips. Please understand this isn't personal. It feels pretty damn personal from where I'm standing, Issei growled, the boosted gear responding to his anger, power flowing through him more freely than ever before. Boost. 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 The familiar command now produced results far beyond what he'd experienced before. Each boost amplified his power exponentially, the energy surging through him without the previous limitations. Partner, be careful. Drake warned. Your body is still adjusting to the unleashed power. Push too far too fast, and you could burn out. Better to burn out than surrender, Issei muttered, dropping into a fighting stance. Surzex sighed. So be it. He turned to his forces. Secure the perimeter. Rias, take your peerage and fall back. This could get messy. Brother, please, Rias protested. There must be another way. This is not a negotiation, Surzex said firmly. Go. Reluctantly, Rias and the others retreated, though they remained within sight. Only Graphia stayed at Surzex's side, her ice magic forming around her hands. Tiamat stepped forward, placing herself between Issei and the Satan. You trespass in my domain, Lucifer. The old accords grant me sovereignty here. Your sovereignty doesn't extend to harboring threats to the underworld's stability, Surzex countered. Stand aside, Dragon King. This doesn't concern you. Oh, but it does, Tiamat smiled coldly. The boy carries the blood of my kin. Dragon law supersedes devil authority when it comes to our own. Surzex's eyes narrowed. So the blood test results were accurate. All the more reason he cannot be allowed to develop unchecked. While they spoke, Valley had subtly moved to flank Issei. When I make my move, head for the portal, he whispered. I'll hold them off. I'm not running, Issei insisted. This isn't about pride, Valley hissed. It's about survival. You need time to adapt to your new power before facing a Satan. Before Issei could argue further, Surzex launched his attack, not at him, but at Tiamat. A sphere of concentrated destruction magic flew toward the Dragon King, who countered with a blast of blue dragon fire. The collision of powers sent a shockwave across the clearing, toppling trees and cracking the earth beneath their feet. Chaos erupted. Valley immediately activated his balance breaker, white armor encasing his body as he charged Graphia, drawing her away from her husband. Surzex pressed his attack against Tiamat, forcing the Dragon King to focus solely on defense against the Satan's overwhelming power. Now! Valley shouted to Issei as he exchanged blows with Graphia. Go! This time, Issei didn't argue. He sprinted toward the portal Tiamat had created, pushing his newly enhanced body to its limits. His speed shocked him, he crossed the distance in a fraction of the time it would have taken him before. Stop him. Surzex commanded, unable to disengage from Tiamat without risking a devastating counterattack. Several devil guards moved to intercept Issei, magic circles forming before them. Instinctively, Issei punched forward with the boosted gear, releasing a dragon shot that dwarfed any he'd created before. The concentrated energy tore through their defensive spells, sending the devils flying backward. As he neared the portal, a familiar figure stepped into his path, Kiba, sword drawn, expression resolute. I can't let you go, Issei-kun, the knight said, genuinely regretful. Please don't make me hurt you. You couldn't if you tried, Issei replied, surprising himself with his confidence. Not anymore. Kiba lunged, his devil-enhanced speed making him almost invisible to normal eyes. But Issei's perception had changed, he saw Kiba's movements as though the knight were moving through water. Effortlessly, he sidestepped the blade, grabbed Kiba's extended arm, and used the knight's own momentum to hurl him into a nearby tree. The wood splintered with the impact, and Kiba slumped to the ground, momentarily stunned. Issei didn't wait to see if he recovered, he dashed the remaining distance to the portal. Issei! Rias's voice called from behind him. He paused at the portal's threshold, turning to see her standing nearby, hands outstretched. Please don't go. We can fix this. For a heartbeat, seeing her there with tears in her eyes, Issei almost wavered. Then he remembered the cold calculation in her voice when she discussed eliminating the threat. There's nothing to fix, he said quietly. You showed me exactly who you are. No more lies, no more manipulation. He stepped backward toward the portal. Tell the others, tell them I'm sorry it ended this way. This isn't the end, Rias warned, her expression hardening. My brother won't stop hunting you. None of the factions will allow someone with your power to roam free. Issei smiled grimly as he felt the portal's energy beginning to envelop him. Then they'd better get used to disappointment. The last thing he saw before the portal consumed him was Rias's face, a complex mixture of anger, fear, and something that might have been regret. Then reality twisted, and Issei found himself somewhere else entirely. He emerged into darkness, stumbling as the portal deposited him in an unfamiliar location. As his eyes adjusted, he realized he was in some kind of vast underground cavern, illuminated by crystal formations that emitted a soft blue glow. Where am I? He wondered aloud, his voice echoing slightly. A dragon sanctuary, Draig answered. One of many hidden throughout the world. Tiamat redirected the portal at the last moment to bring you here instead of Vala's safe house. Smart, the devils would immediately check any location associated with the White Dragon Emperor. Will Valley and Tiamat be okay? Despite everything, Issei felt guilty about leaving them to face Surzex and his forces. Tiamat is a dragon king fighting on her home territory. She won't be defeated easily, even by a Satan. As for Valley, he's resourceful. He'll escape when the opportunity presents itself. Issei nodded, trying to believe it. He made his way deeper into the cavern, following the soft glow of the crystals. As he walked, he took inventory of his body, marveling at the changes already manifesting. The scales on his forearms had spread slightly, now reaching his elbows. His senses felt sharper, he could hear water dripping somewhere deep in the cavern and smell the mineral-rich stone around him with unprecedented clarity. Most noticeably, his connection to Draig felt fundamentally different, not like hosting a separate entity anymore, but like they were two aspects of the same being gradually integrating. Draig, he asked quietly, what am I becoming? What you were always meant to be, partner, the dragon answered. The seal didn't just limit your power, it perverted your natural development. Now your body and soul are trying to find their proper path. And what's at the end of that path? Will I still be, me? You will always be Issei Hayadu, Draig assured him. But you will also be more. The dragon blood in your veins predates the Great War, it comes from an era when boundaries between species were more fluid, when dragons walked in human form and humans could embrace their draconic nature without sacred gears as intermediaries. Issei considered this as he continued exploring. The cavern opened into a larger chamber where a small underground lake glimmered in the crystal light. He knelt beside it, startled by his reflection. His eyes had changed, the irises now vertically slitted like a dragon's, glowing faintly with an inner fire. "I look different," he murmured, touching his face. "The physical changes will progress as your power develops," Drake explained. "Eventually, you'll learn to control them, shifting between forms as needed." "And my devil aspects?" "I was reincarnated with evil pieces." "Interesting question," Drake rumbled thoughtfully. "The evil pieces were designed to convert other species into devils, but they never anticipated trying to convert someone with ancient dragon blood. I suspect your nature is currently in flux, part human, part devil, part dragon, with the balance shifting as your true self emerges." Issei sat by the water's edge, suddenly overwhelmed by the day's events. In less than 24 hours, he'd lost everyone he cared about, discovered his entire life had been built on manipulation, learned of his hidden heritage, and become a fugitive from all the major supernatural factions. "What do I do now?" he asked, not expecting an answer. To his surprise, a voice responded, not Drake's, but a woman's, musical and slightly amused. "Now, you train. You grow. You prepare." Issei spun around to find a figure standing in the shadows, tall and lithe, with silver hair that seemed to capture and reflect the blue crystal light. As she stepped forward, he saw she wore leather armor accented with what looked like dragon scales, and her eyes glowed with an inner light similar to his own. "Who are you?" he demanded, the boosted gear materializing instantly on his arm. "My name is Leora," she replied calmly, unbothered by his defensive posture. "I am a keeper of dragon lore and guardian of this sanctuary. Tiamat sent me a message that you might be arriving." "You know Tiamat?" "All true dragons know each other, in one way or another," Leora said cryptically. "I've been tasked with helping you understand your awakening heritage and teaching you to control your emerging abilities." Issei studied her cautiously. "You don't look like a dragon." Leora smiled, revealing teeth that were just slightly too sharp to be human. "And what does a dragon look like, young one? We are not bound to a single form as lesser creatures are." To demonstrate, she raised her hand, and scales rippled across her skin, glittering silver in the crystal light before fading back to human appearance. "You have much to learn," she continued. "And little time to learn it. The devils will regroup and hunt you. Other factions will join the pursuit once word spreads of what you're becoming." "And what exactly am I becoming?" Issei asked, the question that had been haunting him since Tiamat broke the seal. Leora's expression grew serious. "Something that hasn't existed since the primordial age. A true dragon emperor, not merely a sacred gear wielder, but a being who embodies draconic power in its purest form." She approached a crystal formation and touched it lightly. The crystal responded to her touch, its glow intensifying and projecting images into the air between them, ancient scenes of beings that looked both human and dragon, commanding elemental forces and reshaping reality itself. Before the Great War, before God created the sacred gear system to distribute draconic power among humans, dragons ruled their own realms, Leora explained. The most powerful among them could move between dimensions at will, creating pocket realities or claiming existing realms as their territory. The images shifted, showing massive battles between dragons and angels, devils, and other supernatural beings. The God of the Bible feared the dragon's power and independence. When he couldn't destroy them outright, he fragmented their essences, sealing their power into sacred gears or binding them to physical locations. Issei watched, transfixed, as the history he'd never been taught played out before him. But the blood remained, Leora continued. Diluted through generations, hidden in human lineages, waiting for the right catalyst to reawaken. Her eyes fixed on Issei. That catalyst was you receiving the boosted gear and then having your reincarnation disrupt the natural order further. So what happens now? Keep changing until I become one of those. Issei gestured to the images of draconic beings manipulating reality. The path is not predetermined, Leora cautioned. You are writing a new history. But yes, in time, with proper training and if you survive the trials ahead, you could attain power beyond what any sacred gear wielder has known in millennia. Enough power to protect myself from the devils. From Surzex? Leora's smile turned predatory. Enough power to make Surzex Lucifer kneel before you, if that's what you desire. The word sent a shiver through Issei, not fear, but a strange anticipation. Part of him recoiled from the thought of such domination, but another part, a part that felt increasingly natural, found the idea of turning the tables on those who had manipulated him deeply satisfying. I don't want anyone kneeling, he said finally. I just want to be free. To make my own choices. A noble sentiment, Leora observed, though her tone suggested she didn't entirely believe him. But freedom must be fought for and defended. The supernatural world operates on power and dominance. If you wish to be truly free, you must become powerful enough that none dare challenge your right to exist. She gestured for him to follow as she moved deeper into the cavern. Come. We'll begin your training immediately. The changes in your body won't wait for you to become comfortable with them. As they walked, Issei felt something settling within him, not peace, exactly, but resolve. The hurt of betrayal still burned, but it was transforming into something purposeful, a driving force rather than a crippling wound. I'll show them, he murmured to himself. I'll become what they feared, not to destroy them, but to prove they were wrong to try to control me. That's the spirit, partner, Drake approved. But remember, true power isn't about revenge. It's about reshaping the world to reflect your will. Reshaping the world, huh? Issei smiled grimly. Let's start with reshaping me. He followed Leora into the depths of the sanctuary, leaving behind the last vestiges of his old life and stepping fully into an uncertain but potentially limitless future. Chapter 2, Realms of Rebellion 6 months. That's how long Issei spent in the Dragon Sanctuary with Leora, pushing his body and mind beyond limits he never knew existed. Today marked the end of that seclusion, and he stood at the edge of a crystalline pool, barely recognizing the reflection staring back at him. Gone was the ordinary high school boy. His eyes now glowed with internal fire, vertical pupils dilating in the dim light. Crimson scales permanently adorned his forearms and scattered across his shoulders and chest. His physique had transformed, lean but powerful, every movement fluid and purposeful. Admiring yourself again? Leora's teasing voice echoed through the chamber as she approached. You've come far, but vanity is unbecoming of a dragon. Issei laughed, the sound deeper than it once was. Just making sure I can still pass as human if I need to. With effort and the right clothing, perhaps. Leora circled him critically. Your control has improved dramatically. Show me. Issei closed his eyes, concentrating. The scales receded gradually, sinking beneath his skin until he appeared mostly human. Only the eyes remained changed, still draconic in their intensity. Better than last week, Leora acknowledged. The eyes remain your tell, but sunglasses should suffice in the human world. If I even go back there, Issei muttered. Leora's expression softened slightly, rare for the typically stern dragoness. Today's the day, isn't it? You've decided. Yeah. Issei nodded, determination hardening his features. I've hidden long enough. Time to start building something instead of just running. The location? The Pocket Dimension Valley showed me when we first escaped. It exists between realms, harder for them to track me there. Leora nodded approvingly. A wise choice. Neither heaven nor hell nor earth, but a space between. From such places, the old dragons would extend their influence across multiple realms. Issei gathered the few possessions he'd accumulated, mainly books of draconic lore and some specially crafted clothing that accommodated his partial transformations. Everything fit into a single pack. You're not trying to talk me out of it, he asked, surprised by Leora's calm acceptance. Would it work if I tried? She smiled knowingly. Besides, this sanctuary was never meant to be your permanent home. It's a place of transition, of becoming. You've outgrown it. I couldn't have survived without your training, Issei said sincerely. True, Leora agreed without false modesty. You'd have likely burned yourself out within weeks, your power consuming you from within. She approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. But remember what I taught you, power without purpose is just destruction waiting to happen. I have a purpose. Issei's voice hardened. To create a place where no one gets manipulated and controlled like I was. Where sacred gear users aren't just weapons to be pointed at enemies. A noble goal. Though you'll find it easier said than done. Issei shouldered his pack. Nothing worth doing is easy. That's one thing I actually learned from Rias before, everything. The mention of his former king still brought a twist of pain, but dulled now, more scar than open wound. Leora observed this with her usual perceptiveness. The devils will have evolved their strategy by now, she warned. 6 months is a long time in political terms. They'll have prepared for your eventual re-emergence. Let them. Issei summoned the boosted gear, the crimson gauntlet materializing instantly. But unlike before, it seamlessly melded with his partially draconic form, looking less like armor and more like an extension of himself. I'm not the same person they tried to control. Indeed not, partner, Drake's voice rumbled from within, though Issei now heard it more as an aspect of his own consciousness than a separate entity. Their bond had deepened beyond what any previous Red Dragon Emperor had achieved. Leora stepped back, giving him space. How will you create the dimensional gateway? Your control of spatial manipulation is still developing. In answer, Issei reached into his pocket and withdrew a small blue scale, Tiamat's parting gift. Time to call in a favor. He crushed the scale between his fingers, the material crumbling to dust that swirled in the air before him. Tiamat, he called, his voice carrying power that made the very air vibrate, I seek your guidance. The swirling dust expanded, forming a miniature whirlwind that gradually took shape, resolving into a projection of the Dragon King. Not physically present, but her consciousness temporarily manifested. So the hatchling finally leaves the nest, Tiamat observed, her projected form studying Issei with evident interest. You've changed significantly. Thanks to your sanctuary and Leora's training, Issei acknowledged with a slight bow of his head, respect, not subservience. You require assistance with dimensional travel, Tiamat stated rather than asked. Your control isn't refined enough yet for independent crossing. Yes. The projection smiled, revealing teeth too sharp to be human. Very well. But remember, dragon favors always carry a price. One day I will ask something of you in return. I understand. Tiamat's projection gestured, and a swirling vortex appeared beside Issei, a gateway between dimensions. This will take you to the coordinates in your mind. The passage is stable but temporary. Use it within the hour, or it will collapse. Thank you, Issei said simply. The projection nodded once before dissolving back into blue dust that scattered across the cavern floor. Issei turned to Leora, extending his hand in a warrior's farewell. I can't thank you enough for everything. Leora clasped his forearm, her grip strong. Don't thank me yet, young dragon. Your true trials are only beginning. She released him, stepping back. Remember your training, especially the mental disciplines. Your power means nothing if you can't control your dragon rage. I will. Issei moved toward the portal but paused at the threshold. Will I see you again? When the time is right, Leora answered cryptically. The old blood calls to its own. Our paths will cross again. With a final nod, Issei stepped through the dimensional gateway. The familiar disorientation of realm crossing washed over him, a sensation he'd grown accustomed to during his training. Colors blurred and twisted, reality bending around him as he traversed the gap between dimensions. When the world solidified again, he found himself standing in a vast empty space, not darkness exactly, but a realm of undefined potential. Muted colors swirled in the distance like cosmic gas clouds, while the ground beneath his feet seemed solid despite having no clear substance. The dimensional gap, Issei murmured, recognizing it from Vala's descriptions. The space between established realms. A dangerous place for most beings, Drake commented. But increasingly natural for you. Issei oriented himself, remembering the specific pocket that Valley had shown him briefly during their escape. He extended his senses, feeling for the subtle distortion that would indicate a stabilized area within the chaotic gap. There, a pocket of more defined reality, anchored somehow against the surrounding flux. Issei moved toward it, each step covering impossible distance as spatial laws worked differently here. He encountered a barrier, invisible but tangible, like pressing against dense gel. Security measures Valley had established. Issei placed his palm against it, channeling a specific pattern of draconic energy that he hoped Valley would have keyed into the defenses as a recognition signal. For a moment nothing happened. Then the barrier rippled and parted, allowing him to step through into a surprisingly mundane space. It appeared to be a large warehouse or hangar, dimly lit and mostly empty except for some basic furnishings and equipment. Well, it's not much, but it's a start, Issei muttered. I'd say it's quite impressive for someone who's been a fugitive for 6 months, a familiar voice commented from the shadows. Issei spun, the boosted gear instantly manifesting as he dropped into a combat stance. A figure stepped from the darkness, white hair, blue eyes, and the perpetually smug expression of his former rival. Valley, Issei relaxed slightly, though remained alert. How did you know I'd come here? I didn't. Valley approached casually, hands in his pockets. I check all my safe houses periodically. Lucky timing. He stopped, studying Issei with evident interest. You look different. That's putting it mildly. Issei let his transformation become more visible, scales rippling across his skin. A lot has changed. So I see. Valley circled him, analytical as always. The draconic integration is far more advanced than I expected at this stage. Fascinating. I'm not a science experiment, Issei growled, a hint of actual dragon rumble underlying his words. Valley raised an eyebrow but backed off. Of course not. My apologies. He gestured around them. Welcome to my dimensional pocket. It's rudimentary but secure. The only entrance is keyed to specific energy signatures, mine, and now yours. You expected me to return? I hoped. Vala's usual arrogance softened slightly. You're still my destined rival, after all. Hard to have a proper rivalry if one party is locked in a devil prison or dead. Coming from Valley, this was practically a declaration of friendship. Issei felt himself smiling despite his wariness. What's been happening while I was gone? With the factions, I mean. Vala's expression turned serious. Chaos, to put it mildly. Your escape and the breaking of the seal sent shockwaves through the supernatural world. He moved toward a table in the center of the space, activating a magical projection that displayed news headlines and images from various realms. The official story is that you went rogue after being corrupted by your sacred gear, Valley explained, pointing to a devil news headline that read, Red Dragon Emperor flees after attempted assassination of Satan. That's bullshit. Issei exploded, his aura flaring with anger. They attacked me. Of course it's bullshit, Valley agreed calmly. But they control the narrative in the underworld. What's interesting, though, is how poorly the story is holding together. He swiped to another image, this one showing protests in what appeared to be a devil city. Signs demanded truth about the Red Dragon and end sacred gear suppression. Not everyone believes the official line, Valley continued. Particularly other sacred gear users in the underworld. Your situation has sparked something of a movement questioning how the devil hierarchy treats powerful individuals they can't fully control. Issei stared at the images, conflicting emotions battling within him. Part of him felt vindicated that others questioned the official story, while another part felt guilty about the apparent unrest. What about? He hesitated. What about the Gremory group? Rias and the others? Valis studied him carefully before answering. They've been keeping a low profile. Rias Gremory has temporarily stepped back from her territory responsibilities, officially for advanced training. The others continue their duties but rarely make public appearances. And Asia? Is she okay? The nun? Valis shrugged. No specific news. Presumably still with the Gremory household. Issei nodded, pushing down the concern that threatened to distract him. He couldn't afford to dwell on what he'd lost. What about Heaven and the Fallen? How did they react? Opportunistically, Valis scoffed. Michael issued some sanctimonious statement about the dangers of unregulated power, and offered Heaven's assistance in resolving the situation. The Fallen under Azazel seem more divided. He's always had a soft spot for sacred gear research that doesn't involve killing the hosts. Issei absorbed this information, thinking strategically for perhaps the first time in his life. So I have no allies among the major factions. Not officially, Valis corrected. But unofficially, there are many who chafe under the current system. Individuals with power who feel constrained by factional politics. People who might support an alternative. An alternative to what? To the entire system. Vala's eyes gleamed with something like excitement. The supernatural world has operated under the same basic power structure since the Great War, heaven, hell, and various mythological factions all maintaining their separate territories while negotiating uneasy truces. It's stagnant. Restrictive. And you think I could change that? Issei asked incredulously. I think you represent something the system never anticipated, a being outside their classification schemes, with power derived from ancient sources rather than their carefully regulated hierarchies. Issei considered this perspective. It aligned with what Leora had taught him about the ancient dragons who existed outside factional boundaries, creating their own domains between established realms. I just wanted to be free, Issei said quietly. I never planned on becoming some revolutionary. Sometimes we don't choose our roles, Valis replied. They choose us. He speaks truth, partner, Drake interjected. Throughout history, those with our power rarely lived quiet lives, regardless of their initial intentions. So what now? Issei asked, equal parts resigned and determined. Now, you build. Valis gestured around them. This pocket dimension is stable but basic. With your developing abilities, you could expand it, shape it, turn it into a true realm that answers to you alone. I don't know how to do that yet. You will learn. Vala's confidence was absolute. In the meantime, you need allies, resources, and information. Starting with what? I have nothing to offer potential allies except a target on my back. Valis actually laughed at that. You underestimate your symbolic value. The Red Dragon Emperor who broke free of devil control. You'd be surprised how many would rally to that banner. As if on cue, a magic circle appeared at the far end of the hangar, not a devil or angel sigil, but a different pattern altogether. Right on time, Valis commented. You're expecting company? Issei tensed, ready for potential threats. The first of your potential allies, Valis confirmed. I took the liberty of arranging an introduction. The circle flared, and two figures materialized. Issei recognized them immediately, Kuroka, the SS-class stray devil and sister to Kaneko, accompanied by the Monkey King descendant Biko. Both were former members of Vala's team. Well, Kuroka purred, her cat ears twitching as she took in Issei's transformed appearance. Look how our little devil boy has grown, Naya, not so much devil anymore, Biko observed, twirling his staff casually. More dragon by the look of him. Issei remained cautious. Last time we met, you were both trying to kill me. Ancient history, Biko waved dismissively. We go where the interesting action is. And you're very interesting right now, Kuroka added, moving closer with feline grace, studying him intently. I can sense it, your power has evolved beyond what those stuffy devils could comprehend. What do you want? Issei asked directly. Freedom, Kuroka answered simply. The same as you. I've been hunted as a stray for years because I dared use my power in ways the devil hierarchy disapproved of. She killed her master, Valley clarified. Who was experimenting on me and planned the same for my sister, Kuroka hissed, dropping her playful demeanor momentarily. The devils labeled me stray and condemned me to death without ever asking why. That resonated with Issei more than he expected. He too had been judged dangerous based on what he might become rather than his actual actions. And you? He asked Biko. The Monkey King descendant shrugged. I got bored with the Yukai faction's isolation policies. Too many rules, not enough fun. Plus, he grinned, spinning his staff, I've always had a soft spot for underdogs shaking up the established order. It's in my blood. They're not the only ones, Valley added. There are others, supernatural beings from various factions who have reason to distrust the current power structure. People who might be willing to align with something new. A rebellion, Issei said, the concept finally crystallizing in his mind. If you want to be dramatic about it, sure. Valley smiled thinly. I prefer to think of it as, creating alternatives. Issei considered the proposition. Part of him, the part that still thought like the high school boy he'd been, balked at the idea of positioning himself against the entire supernatural world order. But another part, the dragon aspect that grew stronger each day, recognized the fundamental truth: he would never be safe, never truly free, as long as the current system viewed him as a threat to be contained. What do you truly desire, partner? Drake asked privately. Not just escape, not just survival, but beyond that. Issei took a deep breath, finding clarity in the question. I want to create a place where people like us, people with power that makes them targets, can exist without being weapons or pawns. A realm where sacred gear users and others don't have to choose between being exploited or hunted. Kuroka's eyes gleamed with interest. Ambitious. I like it. It won't be easy, Biko warned, suddenly serious. Every major faction will oppose you. They've built their power structures around controlling special abilities, not freeing them. I know. Issei straightened, resolve hardening. But I'm done running. If they want to stop me, they'll have to kill me. And I don't plan on making that easy for them. Now you're talking, Valley approved. So, where do we start? Issei considered the question carefully. Information. If I'm going to build something that can stand against the established powers, I need to understand exactly how they operate, what their vulnerabilities are. I might be able to help with that, a new voice interjected. They all turned to see another magic circle forming, smaller and more subtle than the previous one. From it emerged a figure Issei recognized with shock. Azazel? The Governor-General of the Fallen Angels stood before them, hands raised in a placating gesture. Easy there. I come alone and in peace. Valley moved protectively in front of Issei. This wasn't part of the plan. How did you find this place? Please, Azazel scoffed. I've been tracking dimensional anomalies since before you were born, kid. Besides, he added with a slight smile, you think I didn't place tracking magic on you years ago? What do you want? Issei demanded, the boosted gear glowing ominously. To help, believe it or not. Azazel studied Issei with fascination. Remarkable transformation. The draconic integration is progressing far more harmoniously than theoretical models predicted. I'm not your research subject, Issei growled. No, you're not, Azazel agreed, his expression turning serious. And that's precisely why I'm here. What the devils attempted with you, artificially limiting a sacred gear's development, violated principles I hold sacred. Since when do fallen angels have principles? Kuroka asked skeptically. Mock if you want, but my interest in sacred gears has always been about understanding, not controlling, Azazel retorted. What Surzex and Ajuka did crossed a line. Issei remained suspicious. You expect me to believe you're here out of moral outrage? Partially, Azazel admitted with characteristic bluntness. Also intellectual curiosity and, yes, strategic calculation. The devil hierarchy overreached, and now they're facing consequences they never anticipated. That creates opportunities for those willing to back the right side. And that's me. The right side? You could be. Azazel spread his hands. Look, I'm not offering blind allegiance. I'm offering an exchange, information for information. I tell you what I know about devil security protocols, faction politics, and the locations of certain important resources. You keep me updated on your development and any discoveries about your draconic heritage. So I'd still be your research subject, just voluntarily. Azazel grinned. I never claimed my motivations were entirely altruistic. But unlike the devils, I'm being transparent about what I want. Your choice, completely uncoerced. The offer was tempting. Azazel possessed insider knowledge about the supernatural world that would take years to gather independently. He speaks truth about his interest in sacred gears, Draig commented. Throughout history, he has studied but rarely interfered with previous Red Dragon emperors. What's to stop you from sharing whatever you learn about me with the devils or heaven? Issei asked. Self-interest, Azazel replied simply. If I betray you, I lose access to the most fascinating sacred gear development in centuries. Plus, he added with a wink, I've always had a soft spot for rebels. Gets boring when the same power structure persists for millennia. Valley moved closer to Issei. He can be trusted to follow his own interests, he said quietly. And right now, those align with yours. Just don't expect permanent loyalty. Issei nodded slowly. Alright, Azazel. Limited cooperation, information exchange only. But you report to me directly, not through intermediaries, and you come alone. Agreed. Azazel's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Now, shall we begin with something immediately useful? Say, the location of a certain underworld research facility containing detailed files on your true nature and the specific limitations they placed on you. That captured Issei's full attention. You know where they kept that information? Not only do I know where, I know when the facility is most vulnerable and which devils are assigned to its security rotation. Azazel's grin widened. Interested? Very. The next hours passed in intensive planning. Azazel provided detailed schematics of the research facility, a nondescript building in a remote area of Ajuka Beelzebub's territory. According to his intelligence, it contained not only the files on Issei's case but research on other sacred gear suppressions and manipulations. The devils have been subtly controlling sacred gear users for generations, Azazel explained, pointing to security features on the blueprint. Your case was extreme because of your heritage, but the practice is widespread. Why haven't sacred gear users noticed? Biko asked. Most limitations are implemented during reincarnation, Valley explained. The new devil has nothing to compare their power level to, so they never realize they're operating at reduced capacity. That's. Issei struggled to find words adequate for his disgust. Efficient, Azazel supplied. Morally reprehensible, but efficient. The perfect devil approach. Kuroka studied the facility layout with professional interest. Security looks substantial but not impenetrable. When do we move? Tonight, Issei decided. Before they have any chance to learn we're targeting it. Azazel raised an eyebrow. Bold. I like it. I'm done hiding, Issei stated firmly. Time to show them what they created when they betrayed me. Midnight found them positioned on a ridge overlooking the research facility, a modernistic building of black stone and glass that squatted like a predatory creature in the barren landscape of the underworld scientific district. Issei crouched beside Valley, studying the patrol patterns of devil guards. His enhanced vision easily picked out details in the darkness that would have been invisible to him months ago. "Remember the plan," Valley murmured. "This is information gathering, not a declaration of war. We get in, copy the files, and get out without being identified if possible." "And if it's not possible?" Issei asked. Valley's smile was cold. "Then make sure none of them live to report what they saw." Despite 6 months of training and evolution, the casual suggestion of killing still disturbed Issei. "We avoid casualties if we can." "Your call," Valley conceded. "But remember, mercy to enemies isn't always kindness to allies." Kuroka materialized beside them, having scouted the perimeter. "Security matches Azazel's intel. 8 guards on rotation, magical barriers at all entrances, and what looks like a dimensional lock preventing teleportation directly inside. Can you disrupt the barriers?" Issei asked. "For about 30 seconds per location," she confirmed. "Enough time for one person to slip through before the system resets." "Then we split up," Issei decided. "Valley and I will enter through different access points. Biko maintains lookout. Kuroka, once we're in, you focus on disabling the internal security systems to cover our exit." They synchronized watches, an oddly mundane detail for supernatural beings, but precision mattered. 3 minutes to first breach, Valley noted. "Last chance for questions." Issei took a deep breath, centering himself as Leora had taught him. "Just to confirm, Azazel said the primary research database would be in the central server room, 3rd sublevel." "Correct," Valley nodded. "The physical files as backup are in the adjacent archive." "Got it." Issei rolled his shoulders, letting his draconic features become more prominent. In the darkness, his eyes glowed with internal fire. "Let's do this." At exactly midnight, they moved. Kuroka slipped ahead, her form blending into shadows as she approached the southern barrier. Her hands wove complex patterns, siphoning energy from the magical construct without fully collapsing it, a temporary bypass rather than destruction. "Now," she hissed. Issei darted through the opening, feeling the magic tingle against his skin as he passed. Once inside the perimeter, he pressed himself against the building's wall, extending his senses to detect nearby guards. 2 devils patrolled nearby, their power signatures registering clearly to his enhanced perception. Issei waited until they rounded the corner, then moved swiftly to a service entrance Azazel had marked on the blueprints. The door was locked, both physically and magically. He placed his hand over the mechanism, channeling a precise burst of dragon energy to disrupt the magical component while using a claw to manipulate the physical lock. The technique Leora had taught him worked perfectly. The door clicked open without triggering alarms. Inside, clinical white hallways stretched in both directions, the sterile environment reminding Issei uncomfortably of a hospital. Following the memorized layout, he moved toward a utility stairwell that would provide access to the lower levels. 2 energy signatures approaching from the left, Drake warned. Issei ducked into an alcove, suppressing his aura as Leora had drilled into him countless times. 2 devil researchers walked past, engrossed in conversation about magical frequencies and containment protocols. Neither noticed the partially draconic being hiding mere feet away. Once they passed, Issei continued to the stairwell. He descended quickly, counting levels until he reached the 3rd sublevel. Here, security would be tighter, proximity wards and motion sensors in addition to guards. Issei closed his eyes, focusing on a technique he'd struggled to master during training. Gradually, his body temperature adjusted, matching the ambient environment precisely while his aura contracted until it was barely detectable. The proximity wards were calibrated for normal devil, angel, or human energy signatures, not the careful camouflage of a dragon. He slipped past the first set of sensors undetected, making his way toward the central server room. According to the plan, Valley should be approaching from the opposite direction, creating a diversion if necessary. The server room door featured more sophisticated protections, a biometric scanner and magical recognition system. This would be trickier. Issei reached into his pocket, removing a small device Azazel had provided, a magical bypass tool specifically designed for devil security systems. He placed it against the scanner, watching as it cycled through potential access patterns. The seconds stretched painfully long, each moment increasing the risk of discovery. Finally, the device blinked green, and the door unlocked with a soft click. Issei slipped inside, finding himself in a large room filled with humming magical servers, the physical manifestation of the Devil's information network. The central terminal stood on a raised platform in the center of the room. Issei moved toward it, inserting another of Azazel's devices into the access port. This one would copy the relevant files without leaving trace access logs. Come on, he muttered as the device began to work. A progress bar appeared on the terminal screen, crawling forward with agonizing slowness. Issei kept his senses extended, alert for any approach. At 43% completion, his warning system triggered. A devil guard was approaching the server room, earlier than the patrol schedule had indicated. Issei made a split-second decision. Rather than hiding, he moved directly to the door, positioning himself to ambush the guard as they entered. Sure enough, moments later the door began to open. The guard, a middle-aged devil in the standard black uniform of Ajuka's security force, barely had time to register surprise before Issei struck. A precise blow to the solar plexus doubled the guard over, followed by pressure to a specific point on the neck that rendered him unconscious without permanent damage. Issei dragged the unconscious devil behind a server bank, quickly binding him with zip ties and gagging him with a strip of cloth. The entire encounter took less than 10 seconds. He returned to the terminal just as the download completed. Issei pocketed the device and moved to the adjacent room, the physical archive where backup files were stored. This room required no additional security bypass, accessible directly from the server room. Inside, rows of filing cabinets filled the space, each labeled with alphanumeric codes rather than names, an additional security measure. Fortunately, Azazel's intelligence had included the classification code for Issei's file, RD-117-X. He located the correct cabinet and began rifling through folders until he found what he sought, a thick file with his name and a prominent, restricted access, stamp across the cover. Issei hesitated, tempted to read it immediately, but professional discipline won out. He photographed each page with a small magical camera, working methodically through the entire file. The contents would be reviewed safely back at their base, not here in enemy territory. As he finished, his communication device vibrated, the signal that Valley had completed his objective and it was time to extract. Issei replaced the file exactly as he'd found it and made his way back through the server room, checking that the guard remained unconscious. The return journey through the facility proceeded without incident until he reached the ground floor. There, chaos erupted, alarms blaring and devils shouting. Someone had discovered their intrusion. What happened to Subtle? Issei muttered, abandoning stealth for speed as he sprinted toward the exit point. He rounded a corner and nearly collided with 3 security devils rushing in the opposite direction. Both parties froze momentarily in surprise. Intruder, one shouted, magic circles forming around their hands. Issei didn't waste time with words. He charged forward, moving faster than the devils could track, his partially draconic form a blur of crimson scales and focused intent. The first guard launched a magical attack that Issei simply absorbed, his draconic hide now resistant to standard devil magic. He countered with controlled strikes, disabling rather than killing, but with enough force to ensure they wouldn't quickly recover. Within seconds, all 3 lay unconscious. More approaching, Drake warned. At least 10 signatures, including 1 high-class devil. Time to leave, Issei decided, abandoning the planned exit route for a more direct approach. He summoned the boosted gear, the familiar weight materializing on his arm with satisfying immediacy. Boost! 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 Power surged through him, doubling repeatedly without the former constraints. Unlike before his transformation, Issei now controlled this power with precision, directing it exactly where needed. Dragon Shot! The concentrated energy blast tore through the facility's outer wall, creating an impromptu exit point. Issei leapt through the opening, landing in the courtyard beyond. Guards converged from multiple directions, but before they could attack, a white blur descended from above, Valley in partial balance breaker form. Subtle, Valley commented sarcastically, blasting two guards who attempted to approach. Plans change, Issei replied. Did you get what you needed? Everything and more, Valley confirmed. Time to go. A familiar magic circle formed beneath them, Kuroka's transportation spell. The last thing Issei saw before teleporting was the face of the approaching high-class devil, his expression a mixture of shock and outrage as he recognized the Red Dragon Emperor. They materialized back in the dimensional pocket, Kuroka and Biko arriving moments later. Well, that was exciting, Biko grinned, twirling his staff. Nothing like a little breaking and entering to get the blood pumping. We were supposed to avoid detection, Valley pointed out, though he didn't seem particularly upset by the change in plans. What triggered the alarm? Issei asked. Not what, who, Kuroka corrected, ears flattening against her head in annoyance. Someone unexpected showed up during our operation. Guess who decided to make a surprise inspection of the facility tonight? Issei groaned. Don't tell me. Ajuka Beelzebub himself, Kuroka confirmed. Apparently, he sensed some kind of magical anomaly and came to investigate personally. That's not good, Issei admitted. Did he see any of us? Don't think so, Biko said. But he'll figure it out quick enough when they check what was accessed. It doesn't matter, Valley interjected. We got what we came for. Let them know it was us. Let them worry about what we discovered. Issei nodded slowly, coming to terms with the implications. This means we're officially declaring ourselves, then. No more hiding. You were done hiding the moment you broke into a devil research facility, Kuroka pointed out pragmatically. Might as well own it. Speaking of what we found. Valley produced a data crystal glowing with stored information. Shall we see exactly what the devils have been hiding? They gathered around a table as Valley activated a magical projection system. The crystal's contents manifested as floating screens of information, hundreds of files containing research data, experimental results, and classified reports. Focus on my file first, Issei directed, anxious to learn the full truth about himself. The projection shifted, displaying the contents of the file labeled RD-117-X. What they read confirmed Issei's worst fears while revealing details far beyond what he'd imagined. Subject displays unprecedented compatibility with boosted gear, Valley read aloud. Initial blood analysis indicates dormant draconic genetic markers consistent with samples from pre-war archival collections. In normal people words. Biko prompted. It means Issei's dragon bloodline isn't just any dragon heritage, Valley translated, his expression unusually serious. It specifically matches dragon samples from before the Great War, the original, pure-blooded dragons that existed before God's system fragmented their power. Kuroka whistled. That's why they freaked out. Having the boosted gear was bad enough, having it in someone with ancient dragon blood was their worst nightmare. They continued reading, each revelation more disturbing than the last. The file detailed how Ajuka had personally designed the seal placed on Issei during reincarnation, a complex magical construct that redirected portions of the boosted gear's power back into itself, creating a closed loop that prevented full manifestation. More disturbingly, it revealed that similar, though less extreme, limitations had been placed on dozens of other sacred gear users reincarnated as devils, a standard protocol approved by all 4 current Satans. They've been systematically crippling sacred gear users, Issei said, voice tight with anger. Not just me, all of them. Makes strategic sense from their perspective, Valin noted clinically. Power they can't fully control represents a potential threat to their hierarchy. The file contained regular power assessments of Issei, tracking his development and noting with concern when he began exceeding projected parameters. The final entry, dated shortly before his escape, recommended immediate recalibration of containment protocols with potential consideration of termination if adjustment fails. They had been planning to kill him if they couldn't reinforce the seal. The confirmation hit Issei hard, despite having overheard as much during that fateful night. There's more, Valis said, highlighting another section. Theoretical projections of your potential if the seal were removed. The projections were fascinating and terrifying. Ajuka had calculated that an unsealed Issei, given his draconic heritage, might eventually develop powers comparable to dragon kings or even, if the heritage proved to be from a particularly potent bloodline, dragon god-class entities. No wonder they were scared, Biko whistled. This part is particularly interesting, Kuroka noted, pointing to a section near the end. Research on potential control mechanisms if containment failed. The document detailed several theoretical approaches to controlling a fully awakened dragon-human hybrid, including a weapon designed to specifically target draconic physiology and a ritual that could potentially bind even powerful dragons to a devil's will. We should assume they're developing these contingencies now, Valley warned. Let them try, Issei said, a new hardness in his voice. Now we know what they're planning, we can prepare. There's something else, Valley continued, accessing different files. Information about other supernaturals being controlled or monitored by the current system, not just by devils, but coordinated efforts between the factions. The files revealed a stunning truth. The supposed peace between factions was built partly on mutual agreements to limit the emergence of powers that might threaten the established order. Angels suppressed certain holy weapons, devils limited sacred gears, and even pagan factions controlled which aspects of their mythology were allowed to manifest in the modern world. It's all about control, Issei realized. They preach about balance and peace, but really they're just maintaining their positions at the top. Tale as old as time, Kuroka shrugged. Those in power don't give it up willingly. But this gives us an opportunity, Valley pointed out. These files contain names, locations, and details about others who've been suppressed or controlled. Potential allies. Issei scanned the list, recognizing some names while others were unfamiliar. Powerful individuals from various factions who had been deemed destabilizing influences and subsequently controlled, imprisoned, or neutralized in various ways. We can't contact them all at once, he cautioned. We need to be strategic. Start with the ones who have the most reason to resent the system, Kuroka suggested. The ones who've been most obviously wronged. As they debated potential recruits, another communication circle activated, Azazel checking in. I see you made quite the impression, the fallen angel leader commented, his projected image looking amused. Ajuka is absolutely livid. Haven't seen him this worked up in centuries. We got the files, Issei confirmed. Everything you said would be there and more. Good. And now that you've officially announced your return to the supernatural world, you should prepare for the response. It won't be subtle. What are they planning? Valley demanded. Emergency meeting of faction leaders tomorrow, Azazel revealed. All the big names, Surzex, Michael, representatives from major mythologies. I'm attending as Grigori's leader. To coordinate how to recapture or kill me, Issei guessed. That's the official agenda, Azazel confirmed. Though I suspect there will be disagreement about methods and priorities. Can you stall them? Valley asked. We need time to build our position. I can muddy the waters, certainly. Raise concerns about jurisdiction, precedent, proper protocols. Azazel smirked. Bureaucracy is useful for something, at least. We need more than time, Issei said suddenly, an idea forming. We need to make a statement, something that shows we're not just running and hiding. Something that changes the narrative. What did you have in mind? Azazel asked, looking intrigued. Those other suppressed individuals in the files, Issei began, where is the most heavily secured one being held? Azazel's eyebrows shot up. You're thinking of a rescue operation. Already? That's ambitious. The devils expect me to hide and lick my wounds, Issei reasoned. They're preparing for a long hunt. If instead we immediately strike again, somewhere important, somewhere they believe impregnable, it changes everything. He has a point, Valak conceded, looking at Issei with new respect. Strategic surprise has value. Azazel considered for a moment. The most significant containment would be the northern citadel in Surzek's territory. It houses several high-value guests the devils consider too dangerous to eliminate but too volatile to allow freedom. Including? Issei prompted. A former Valkyrie who discovered and objected to limitations placed on her sister's powers, a Yukai leader who attempted to break ties with devil allies, and most interestingly, a devil from the old Satan faction who possesses unique abilities to manipulate dimensional boundaries. That last one caught Issei's attention immediately. Dimensional boundaries? Like between realms? Precisely, Azazel confirmed. Zareth Astaroth, distant cousin to the current Astaroth clan head. His ability to weaken the barriers between realms was deemed too destabilizing during the Devil Civil War. He's been imprisoned for nearly 3 centuries. Someone who can manipulate realm boundaries would be invaluable for what we're planning, Valin noted. The Citadel is one of the most heavily defended locations in the underworld, Azazel warned. Even with your growing powers, a frontal assault would be suicide. Who said anything about frontal? Issei smiled, an expression that showed slightly too many teeth to be entirely human. If there's one thing I learned during my training, it's that direct isn't always best. You have a plan? Kuroka asked. The beginnings of one. Issei turned to Azazel. Can you get us detailed information on the Citadel's defenses? Layout, guard rotations, magical protections? Possibly, Azazel hedged. But directly aiding a prison break crosses a line from information sharing to active partnership. That would complicate my position significantly. We're not asking you to participate, Issei clarified. Just provide information. What you know about our intentions is simply speculation. Azazel laughed. I see Leora taught you political evasiveness along with combat skills. Very well. I'll get what I can, for purely academic purposes, of course. Of course, Issei agreed with a matching smile. After Azazel's projection faded, the group gathered to begin planning in earnest. They worked through the night, analyzing the information from the research facility and preparing for their next, more audacious move. As dawn approached, Issei stepped away from the planning table to a quiet corner of the dimensional pocket. He needed a moment alone to center himself, to process everything they'd discovered and the path he now committed to following. You're troubled, partner, Drake observed. Not troubled exactly, Issei replied internally. Just, coming to terms with how much has changed. 6 months ago, I was a high school kid whose biggest concern was seeing Rias naked. Now I'm planning prison breaks and building a rebellion against the supernatural world order. The path of the Red Dragon Emperor is rarely peaceful or ordinary. But few have embraced the role as naturally as you are beginning to. That's what worries me, Issei admitted. How natural it feels. The strategies, the calculations, viewing people as assets or obstacles, that's not who I was. Perhaps, Drake suggested, it is not that you are becoming something else, but that you are becoming more fully yourself. The limitations placed upon you constrain not just your power but aspects of your nature. Issei considered this perspective. Maybe. Or maybe power changes people, regardless of their intentions. A question philosophers have debated for millennia, Drake acknowledged. But remember what Leora taught you, power itself is neutral. It is purpose that defines its nature. And my purpose? Issei questioned. Am I just seeking revenge against those who betrayed me? Only you can answer that, partner. But consider this, true revenge would be simple destruction. What you propose, creating alternatives, freeing others, building something new, requires vision beyond mere vengeance. That resonated with Issei. Yes, anger at betrayal had initially driven him, but what sustained him now was something deeper, a fundamental objection to a system that controlled and limited people based on fear of their potential. We'll free them, he decided, rejoining the group with renewed determination. Not just for tactical advantage, but because it's right. No one should be imprisoned just because their power makes others uncomfortable. 3 days later, they were ready. The northern citadel loomed before them, a massive structure of black stone and crackling magical barriers that jutted from a mountainside in Surzek's territory. Despite its imposing appearance, they had identified vulnerabilities in its defenses, thanks to Azazel's detailed intelligence. Remember, Issei cautioned as they prepared for the operation, our primary objective is extracting the prisoners, particularly Zareth Astaroth. Fighting guards is secondary and to be avoided when possible. Their team had expanded slightly for this mission. In addition to the core group, Issei, Valley, Kuroka, and Biko, they'd recruited 2 additional allies, Lofei Pendragon, a human magician with exceptional talent for barrier manipulation who had worked with Valley in the past, and Fenrir, the legendary wolf bound to her through complex magical contracts. The wolf's power to rend divine protections would prove crucial for penetrating the citadel's defenses. The southeastern ward stone is our entry point, Lofei confirmed, studying magical projections of the barrier system. Fenrir can create a disruption, and I can extend it long enough for us to slip through before their detection systems register the breach. Once inside, we split into 2 teams, Valley continued. Issei and I will head for the high-security detention area to extract Zareth. Kuroka, Biko, and Lofei will locate and free the Valkyrie and the Yukai leader. Kuroka smirked. And create appropriate distractions as needed? Controlled chaos only, Issei emphasized. We're not there to massacre guards, just to extract our targets and leave. You're no fun, Biko complained, though his grin suggested he wasn't entirely serious. Timing is critical, Valley reminded everyone. We'll have approximately 20 minutes from breach to extraction before reinforcements from Lucifer arrive. The extraction point must be secured precisely on schedule. They synchronized their watches one final time. Issei took a deep breath, focusing his power as Leora had taught him. His draconic features became more prominent, scales extending across his arms and chest, eyes gleaming with inner fire. Let's move. They approached the citadel through a ravine that provided cover from observation points. Lofei worked complex magic to mask their presence from detection spells, while Kuroka added her own spatial distortion to further confuse monitoring systems. At the base of the southeastern wall, they paused. This was the moment of greatest vulnerability, transitioning from approach to infiltration. Fenrir, Lofei whispered, gesturing toward the barrier. The massive wolf, currently in a somewhat reduced size for the operation, growled softly, his fangs gleaming with primal power. He lunged at an apparently solid wall, teeth sinking into something invisible. The barrier magic visibly distorted, rippling like fabric being torn. Lofei immediately cast her spell, her staff tracing complex patterns that stabilized the breach. Now, she hissed. Quickly. They slipped through the opening one by one, emerging inside the citadel's outer ring, a patrol area between the external barrier and the main building. 2 guards stood nearby, their backs fortunately turned toward a different section. Kuroka moved with blinding speed, materializing behind the guards and striking precise pressure points that rendered them unconscious without sound. She dragged them into the shadows as the others advanced. 30 seconds until the automated detection spell cycles through this sector, Lofei warned. We need to be inside the main building by then. They sprinted across the exposed ground to a maintenance entrance Azazel had identified. Valley placed a magical bypass device against the lock, similar to what they'd used at the research facility but modified for the Citadel's security systems. The door clicked open just as Luffy's countdown reached 5 seconds. They piled inside, pulling the door shut behind them as the detection spell swept the area they just vacated. "That was closer than I'd like," Issei muttered, heart pounding from more than physical exertion. "But successful," Valley pointed out pragmatically. "We're in." They stood in a utility corridor, pipes and magical conduits running along the ceiling, the air heavy with the scent of ozone from concentrated spellwork. "This is where we separate," Issei confirmed. "Rendezvous at the extraction point in exactly 18 minutes. The group split, each heading toward their assigned objectives. Issei and Valley moved deeper into the facility, following memorized pathways toward the high-security detention area. They encountered 2 patrols en route but managed to avoid detection by timing their movements carefully and utilizing service passages not regularly monitored. Issei found himself relying increasingly on draconic senses, his enhanced hearing detecting guard movements through walls, his sensitivity to magical energy identifying active security measures before they triggered. The high-security area was marked by a massive reinforced door layered with protective spells. Unlike the other security measures they'd encountered, this one would be impossible to bypass subtly. "We expected this," Valley reminded him. "Direct approach?" Issei nodded grimly. "Just as planned." They positioned themselves on either side of the corridor leading to the door. Valley activated a small magical device that would temporarily loop the security monitoring spells, giving them a brief window where their actions wouldn't immediately trigger facility-wide alarms. 3 minutes, Valley confirmed as the device activated. "Make them count." Issei summoned the boosted gear, the familiar weight materializing instantly on his arm. Boost. 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 Power surged through him, each boost doubling his strength. Unlike before his transformation, when 4 or 5 boosts would strain his limits, he now handled the amplification with practiced ease. Dragon shot. The concentrated blast struck the center of the door, the impact reverberating through the corridor. The outer layer of magical protections flared brilliantly before shattering, though the physical door remained intact. Valley immediately followed with his own attack, Divine Dividing's energy striking precisely where Issei had weakened the defenses. The combined assault, Red Dragon Emperor's destructive force and White Dragon Emperor's dividing power, created a devastating counterpoint that the door's designers had never anticipated. With a groaning sound, the reinforced metal began to buckle. One final coordinated strike, and the door collapsed inward, revealing a circular chamber beyond. The high-security detention area contained 8 cells arranged around a central control station. 2 guards stationed at the controls reacted with understandable shock as the supposedly impenetrable door failed. Before they could trigger alarms, Valley moved with blinding speed, incapacitating both with precise strikes. Issei rushed to the control panel, quickly scanning for the cell assignment they needed. "Cell 4, he called out, locating their target. The cells themselves were individually warded, transparent magical barriers revealing the occupants within. Most contained a single figure, though several appeared empty. Cell 4 housed an older-looking devil with silver-streaked black hair and aristocratic features, wearing simple gray clothing. "Zareth Astaroth?" Issei called out. The devil approached the barrier cautiously, studying his would-be rescuers with evident suspicion. "Who asks?" "Not devils, clearly, despite the white-haired one's lineage. We're here to offer you freedom," Issei stated simply. "In exchange for potential alliance." "Alliance?" Zaretha's eyebrows rose. "How intriguing. And what exactly are you, Scaled One?" "Not devil, not human, yet somehow, familiar." "We can discuss that after we're out of here," Valley interrupted, examining the control panel. "These cells have individual release mechanisms. Deactivating them all simultaneously will trigger emergency protocols. Release me first," a voice called from another cell. "I can help disable the others without triggering alarms." Issei turned to see a woman in cell 6, tall and blonde with the unmistakable bearing of a Valkyrie. "You're Brynhild." "I am," she confirmed. And I've had 3 centuries to study this prison's systems. The control panel has a sequential override that can be activated with the correct input pattern. Issei and Valley exchanged glances. This wasn't part of their intel. Can we trust her? Valley asked quietly. Do we have a choice? Issei countered. Their window was rapidly closing. Decision made, Issei approached the control panel. Guide me through it. Brynhild provided precise instructions, a complex sequence of activations that gradually overrode the cell's security protocols without triggering emergency measures. As she predicted, the barriers began to dissolve one by one, freeing the prisoners without setting off facility-wide alarms. Zareth stepped from his cell, stretching as though awakening from a long sleep. Freedom, he murmured, tastes even sweeter than I remembered. The other prisoners emerged as well, Brynhild moving with warrior's grace despite centuries of confinement, and from cell 2, a fox-eared Yukai with 9 tails who introduced himself simply as Kurama. We have 14 minutes to extraction, Valley reminded everyone. Let's move. Wait, Zareth placed a hand on Issei's arm, studying him with newfound intensity. I know what you are now. The scales, the aura, you carry the old blood. Dragon blood. We'll discuss it later, Issei insisted, uncomfortable with the devil's penetrating gaze. Of course, Zareth smiled, revealing fangs slightly too sharp for a normal devil. But know this, you've chosen better allies than you realize. They exited through the broken door, Valley taking point while Issei brought up the rear. The freed prisoners moved with surprising coordination, falling into formation without prompting, the result of centuries of shared confinement, Issei suspected. They were halfway to the rendezvous point when the first alarm sounded, not from their location, but elsewhere in the facility. That would be Kuroka's controlled chaos, Valley commented dryly. It works in our favor, Brynhild noted. Security will focus on the most obvious disturbance first. They continued through the facility, encountering minimal resistance as guard forces converged on whatever havoc Kuroka's team had created. The few guards they did encounter were quickly neutralized by Valley or, surprisingly, efficient teamwork between Brynhild and Kurama, who fought with the coordination of longtime allies. At the extraction point, a service yard near the eastern wall, they found Kuroka's team waiting, along with 6 additional freed prisoners of various species and backgrounds. Right on schedule, Kuroka purred, looking entirely too pleased with herself. Made some new friends along the way. I said essential extractions only, Valley hissed. They are essential, Kuroka retorted. Each has abilities or knowledge valuable to our cause. Efficiency in recruitment. Before the argument could continue, Lo Fei interrupted. Barrier disruption in 30 seconds. Everyone prepare for extraction. As the freed prisoners gathered, Issei pulled Zareth aside. Your ability to manipulate dimensional boundaries, is it something you can use immediately, or do you need recovery time? Curious question, Zareth observed with a knowing smile. But yes, my abilities return quickly once uninhibited. Why do you ask? Because our extraction plan may need adjustment, Issei explained, gesturing to the unexpectedly large group. Our prepared transportation spell wasn't calibrated for this many. Ah, Zaretha's eyes gleamed with interest. You wish me to facilitate our escape. I can indeed create a passage, but I require a destination, someplace you've been, with distinct magical resonance. Issei didn't hesitate. The dragon sanctuary where I trained. I can provide the magical signature. Perfect. Zareth extended his hand. Share the resonance with me. Issei clasped the devil's offered hand, mentally projecting the magical essence of Leora's sanctuary as she had taught him. Zaretha's eyes widened momentarily. Fascinating location, he murmured. Between realms, yet distinctly anchored. Yes, I can create a pathway. Lu Fei's voice cut through their exchange, barrier disruption now. At the eastern wall, Fenrir once again tore into the magical protections, creating a breach large enough for their escape. They moved quickly, passing through the opening into the ravine beyond. Behind them, alarms blared as the Citadel's security forces finally recognized the true scale of the intrusion. "They'll be on us in seconds," Vali warned. "Whatever you're planning, do it now." Zareth stepped forward, extending both hands toward the open air. His fingers traced complex patterns, leaving trails of silvery light hanging in the atmosphere. The very fabric of reality seemed to thin where he worked, creating a visible distortion. "Pathway forming," he announced, voice strained with concentration. "It's been some time since I've attempted this scale of manipulation." The air split open, revealing a swirling vortex that somehow showed glimpses of crystalline formations beyond, the dragon sanctuary. "Everyone through," Issei commanded. "Quickly." The freed prisoners didn't need to be told twice. One by one, they leapt into the portal, vanishing from the underworld. As the last of their original team prepared to enter, a massive magical attack struck the ground nearby, sending debris flying. "Reinforcements!" Biko shouted unnecessarily. Issei turned to see a contingent of devil guards pouring from the citadel, led by a figure he recognized with a jolt, Tsuji Okita, Surzek's knight. "Go!" Issei urged the others. "I'll hold them off." "Don't be heroic," Valis snapped, grabbing his arm. "We all leave together." But Issei understood the tactical reality. Someone needed to delay the pursuit long enough for Zareth to pass through and close the portal from the other side. As the one with the greatest combat capability among them, the responsibility fell to him. "Trust me," he said, meeting Vala's gaze. "I can handle this." After a moment's hesitation, Vala nodded sharply. "Don't take too long." He leapt through the portal, followed by Lufei and Fenrir. Issei turned to face the approaching devils, allowing his transformation to progress further than he typically permitted. Scales spread across his entire body, his form growing slightly larger as draconic features became more pronounced. Wings, not the bat-like devil wings of his reincarnation, but true dragon wings of crimson membrane stretched over bone, erupted from his back. "Red Dragon Emperor!" Okita called out, sword drawn. "Surrender now, by order of Lucifer." "I don't take orders from Surzek anymore," Issei called back, summoning the boosted gear. "Or anyone else." "Then you leave us no choice." Okita raised his sword, signaling the guards to attack. What followed was unlike any battle Issei had experienced before his transformation. Where once he would have struggled against a knight of Okita's caliber, now he moved with inhuman speed and precision, his partially draconic body responding to his will with perfect synchronicity. The first wave of guards launched magical attacks that Issei simply deflected with a sweep of his scaled arm, the draconic hide absorbing devil magic with minimal effect. He countered not with the boosted gear's power but with raw physical strength, moving among the devils like a crimson whirlwind. Guards fell before they could register his movement, precise strikes incapacitating rather than killing, a deliberate choice that required greater control but aligned with Issei's evolving principles. Okita proved a more significant challenge, the legendary swordsman's speed nearly matching Issei's enhanced reflexes. Their clash sent shockwaves through the ravine, sword meeting scaled forearm with sparks of conflicting energy. "You've changed," Okita observed during a momentary pause in their exchange. "This power was never meant to be yours." "That wasn't your decision to make," Issei retorted, dodging a lightning-fast thrust. "Or Surzek's. Or anyone's but mine." "You don't understand the consequences," Okita insisted, his sword becoming a blur as he executed a complex attack pattern. "Power like yours unbalances everything." Issei caught the blade between his palmed hands, draconic strength halting at mid-strike. "Maybe everything needs unbalancing." With a twist, he snapped the legendary sword, a shocking display of physical power that left Okita momentarily stunned. Issei used the opportunity to deliver a precise strike to the knight's chest, sending him flying backward into the remaining guards. A quick glance confirmed that Zareth had successfully passed through the portal, which now began contracting. Time to leave. Issei launched himself toward the rapidly closing gateway, wings extended for maximum speed. Behind him, a shout of denial echoed as Okita recovered enough to realize his quarry was escaping. A final magical attack, more powerful than the guard's efforts, likely from Okita himself, surged toward Issei's back. Rather than dodging, he spun in midair, meeting the attack head-on with a dragon shot that overwhelmed the incoming magic. The resulting explosion created a convenient smokescreen that covered his final approach to the portal. With one powerful thrust of his wings, Issei hurled himself through the narrowing opening, feeling reality shift around him as he passed between realms. The portal sealed behind him, cutting off pursuit and ending the most audacious rescue operation the supernatural world had seen in centuries. The dragon sanctuary hummed with activity as the freed prisoners adjusted to their sudden liberation. Leora observed the newcomers with a mixture of curiosity and caution, particularly the devil Zareth, who seemed fascinated by the sanctuary's unique properties. "You've been busy," she commented as Issei approached her. "Prison breaks and dimensional travel. Ambitious for your first week back in the world." "We needed allies with specific skills," Issei explained. "And making a statement didn't hurt either." "A statement has certainly been made," Leora agreed. "The question is, what comes next?" "What indeed?" Issei had been operating on instinct and opportunity, but now, with a growing group of powerful individuals looking to him for leadership, he needed a more concrete plan. "We can't stay here," he said, thinking aloud. "This sanctuary is your domain, not meant for a rebel army." "True," Leora nodded. "And while I've supported your development, openly harboring enemies of all three major factions would violate my neutrality. We need our own realm," Issei realized. "Not just a hideout or safe house, a true domain that belongs to none of the existing factions." "Now you're thinking like a dragon," Leora smiled approvingly. "Territory is fundamental. But creating or claiming a realm is no small undertaking. That's why we freed Zareth," Issei explained. "His ability to manipulate dimensional boundaries could be the key." "Clever," Leora acknowledged. "But manipulating existing boundaries is different from establishing new ones. For that, you need an anchor point, a physical location of significant magical importance that can serve as the foundation for a new realm." Issei considered this new information. "Like what? A ley line convergence? A sacred site?" "Those would work," Leora confirmed. "As would certain artifacts specifically designed for realm creation or alteration." A memory surfaced from the files they'd stolen from the research facility, mentions of an artifact in a hidden underworld vault, something related to realm boundaries. "The Clavis Regni," Issei murmured. Leora's eyes widened. "You know of it?" "I saw references in Devil research files. Some kind of key or tool related to realm boundaries." "It is far more than that," Leora said, her voice dropping to ensure privacy. "The Clavis Regni, the realm key, is one of the original artifacts created during the formation of the supernatural domains. Legend holds that God himself used it to separate heaven from the mortal realm, and later, Lucifer used it to establish the underworld as a distinct domain." "And it still exists?" Issei asked, excitement building. "It does, though few know its location. If the devils have it secured in a vault, that explains much about their control over dimensional access points. This changed everything. With such an artifact, they wouldn't need to gradually build influence or hide in pocket dimensions, they could establish a true alternative to the existing realms, a domain outside the control of current supernatural authorities. We need to find it," Issei decided. If the files mentioned it, Azazel might know more. As if summoned by the thought, a communication circle activated nearby, revealing Azazel's projected image. The fallen angel leader looked uncharacteristically serious. "Your prison break caused quite the uproar," he began without preamble. "Emergency session of faction leaders convened immediately. They're voting on a joint task force specifically dedicated to your capture. I expected as much, Issei replied calmly. How did you vote? Azazel's lips twitched in amusement. Officially, Grigori supports containment of potential threats to stability. Unofficially, let's just say I emphasize the need for thorough research before action, extensive preparation, proper protocols, all the bureaucratic delays I could reasonably justify. Buying us time, Issei nodded gratefully. We need it. I have a question about something mentioned in the research files, the Clavis Regni. Azazel's expression shifted to one of genuine surprise. Where did you? No, never mind. The files, of course. He glanced around as if checking for eavesdroppers, despite communicating via projection. That's not a topic discussed in open sessions. What do you want to know? Everything. Where it is, what it does, how heavily it's guarded. Azazel studied him for a long moment. You're planning something truly ambitious, aren't you? Not just hiding or fighting back, you want to change the game entirely. The current system is built on control and suppression, Issei stated firmly. We've seen the evidence. I want to create an alternative, a place where people can develop their abilities without arbitrary limitations. Noble, Azazel acknowledged. Also potentially catastrophic if mishandled. But he seemed to come to a decision. The Clavis Regni is held in the abyssal vault beneath Lilith, the most secure location in the underworld. Its primary function is realm creation and boundary manipulation on a fundamental level. Can it be used to create a new realm entirely? Theoretically, yes, though it hasn't been used that way since the original formation of the supernatural domains. More commonly, it's used to adjust existing boundaries or establish controlled access points between realms. How heavily guarded is this abyssal vault? Azazel laughed. Thinking of another heist. The Citadel was a walking park compared to the abyssal vault. It's protected by all four Satan's power signatures, ancient dragon wards, divine seals, layers of security developed over millennia. But not impenetrable, Issei pressed. Nothing is truly impenetrable, Azazel conceded reluctantly. But this comes close. You'd need inside help at the highest levels, precise timing, and extraordinary power to breach it successfully. Issei exchanged glances with Leora, who had remained silent during the exchange. Her subtle nod confirmed his suspicions, difficult but not impossible. I need detailed information on the vault, Issei told Azazel. Everything you can provide without compromising yourself too obviously. This crosses further into active conspiracy, Azazel warned. My position becomes increasingly precarious. I understand. Whatever you can share safely. Azazel sighed. I'll compile what I know. But Issei, his expression turned serious, even if you obtain the clavis, using it requires knowledge and power few possess. The consequences of misuse could be disastrous for all realms. That's why we freed Zareth Astaroth, Issei revealed. His specialty is dimensional boundary manipulation. Clever, Azazel acknowledged. But be careful. Zareth was imprisoned for good reason, his ambitions during the Devil's Civil War were extreme. I'll keep that in mind. After Azazel's projection faded, Issei rejoined the others, who had gathered in the sanctuary's main chamber. The diverse group presented a striking tableau: devils, a valkyrie, yokai, and other supernatural beings who under normal circumstances would rarely associate willingly. Our sanctuary here is temporary, Issei announced. I've been in contact with sources who can help us establish something more permanent, a realm of our own. Ambitious, Zareth commented, eyes gleaming with interest. You speak of true realm creation, not merely a dimensional pocket? Exactly. Using an artifact called the Clavis Regni. A murmur ran through the group. Several, including Brynhild and Zareth, clearly recognized the name. The realm key is not a myth? Brynhild asked, surprised. In Asgard, it was spoken of as legend. It's real, Issei confirmed. And secured in the underworld's abyssal vault. Which you propose to breach, Valak concluded. Ambitious indeed. Impossible, more likely, Kurama, the nine-tailed fox, interjected. The abyssal vault is mentioned even in Yukai legends as unassailable. Nothing is impossible, Issei countered. Just differently challenging. We've already accomplished what most would consider impossible, breaking into a high-security devil research facility and freeing prisoners from the northern citadel. Those were tests, Zareth realized, studying Issei with new appreciation. You were assessing capabilities, patterns, reactions, preparing for something larger. Not consciously, Issei admitted. But each success has shown us what's possible when we work together. The discussion that followed was intense, strategy, capabilities, risks all debated openly. What struck Issei most was the energy in the room, these beings from different factions, many recently imprisoned, engaged with genuine passion about creating something new. By evening, they had the outline of a plan, audacious, risky, but potentially game-changing. It would require precise coordination, exceptional timing, and leveraging every ability and connection they possessed. As the others dispersed to prepare or rest, Valley approached Issei privately. You've changed, he observed. 6 months ago, you could barely strategize a raiding game. Now you're planning realm creation. Necessity, Issei shrugged. And having the seal removed helped. I can think more clearly now, see patterns I missed before. It's more than something went wrong with this response, please try again. Write the next chapter here. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.